And welcome back. Good morning. It's 6 minutes past 7 a.m. If you're still in the house, you're just about to leave for work. Let's catch up with what's on the front page of our local dailies before we get into Eye on Politics. The day is 25th day of September 2023. Good morning and welcome to the program. All right, before we get into that, my guest already in studio. Let me start with Kevin Katisia, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly. That's a prayer for you.
Amen. Amen.
County Assembly Speaker of Kitui County. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Victor.
How is Kitui doing?
Kitui is doing well. We thank God.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Member of Parliament representing the great people of Funyula, that is Wilberforce Mudenyo. Mheshimiwa, karibu to the program.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Good morning, Victor, and the rest of the Kenyans.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kevin, before we continue, 1 year in office, how has it been? Uncharted waters?
Thank you very much, Victor. I can say that indeed 1 year has passed since I have been to office, because I was elected as a Speaker of the County Assembly of Kitui on 21st of September 2022. And today is 25th of September 2023. So it means that 1 year has passed.
Yes.
And I can say that it has been tough but manageable. Because you know, when you enter into politics for the first time, because this was my first time to venture into elective politics. And I can tell you, it was not a walk in the park.
Yes.
It was tough, but I thank the great people of Kitui County who elected good MCAs. Because you know, as a speaker, you are basically leading politicians.
Yes.
And it is not easy to lead politicians. Each one of them comes with their own ideas, and you have to manage them. But I can tell you, Kitui County Assembly, being an assembly where there are so many political parties represented, Wiper being the majority, we have NAC of the former governor of Kitui, we have Jubilee, we have UDA, we have Muungano, we have several independents. And you know, as a speaker, you must ensure that you are neutral.
Yes.
And myself being a member of Wiper, at some point I face
you find yourself in a very tight spot.
Exactly, because sometimes the Wiper MCAs may want me to be fully theirs, but as a speaker I have to be neutral. And that's what I've tried to do over the last 1 year. And also as a speaker, you also have to ensure that the assembly delivers on its mandate of representation, legislation and oversight. And we have to ensure that there is unity with our governor. And that unity must be well balanced, because the unity should not also interfere with our work of oversight. And sometimes I always tell my governor that and the executive that they should not confuse oversight with opposition. And as we oversight them, we oversight them with a lot of respect. And I can tell you, Victor, I am very happy to be in this position, and I believe that God will give me the strength and the ability to lead the Assembly of Kitui for the next remaining 4 years, and maybe thereafter.
Absolutely.
But all belongs to God, and I want to thank the MCs of Kitui County Assembly and assure them that I'll continue leading them in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Victor.
All right. Very good. Later on, we'll also be asking how it is all about the issue of now representation. When you say that your county is more of, let me quote and quote cosmopolitan, because you have got so many political parties. In terms of legislation and passing of the bills, how does it go in the assembly? Before we start, gentlemen, I have a quote for you. A rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. Mheshimiwa Mudenyo, a rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. What do you make of that proverb?
Thank you, Victor.
Yes.
You can only make what you can make. You cannot be the king of the world. The world is too big for one person. As you become the king of the world, remember you have got a home.
Yes.
Remember you have got a compound. Make good your compound before you go and crow to the entire world.
Right.
That's simply what they're saying. That Kenya will seem to be preoccupied with international recognition, yet we are leaving our people down here going through untold suffering innumerably. We must not go to play to the international gallery and we leave our people suffering here. That's what that proverb is saying.
Okay.
And you know whom it is referring to. I do not need anybody can
I don't
put the pieces together.
It's just a proverb.
I know it's a proverb. And proverbs are proverbs indeed.
Yes.
They're not just simple sayings.
Katisia, a crow is not meant to crow for the whole world.
Whereas I agree with my senior, you know, Kenya being a state, we don't exist alone. We exist among many other states. And we cannot say that we are self-sufficient. Yeah, we have to also rely on other states. We have to partner with other states. But agreeing with my senior here is that we should first of all focus on ourselves. That's why we say charity begins at home. Before we can say that we are able to assist other states. The way I saw, we are sending over 1,000 police officers to Haiti, and we know the situation in Kenya. I think we should also try to ensure that our people are comfortable, and that is the role of a government. Yeah, if your people are not comfortable, you can't say that you want to now help other people. So I think we need to ensure that as government and as leaders, we first of all take good care of our homes, as Mheshimiwa is saying. We take good care of our homes before we can now extend our boundaries to other people's homes. Because if your people are sleeping hungry, you can't give your neighbor food when your own people are sleeping hungry.
Yes.
So you must start at home.
So
yes,
charity begins at home.
Charity begins at home.
And should not end there.
Yes.
Okay. A quick look at the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the Standard newspaper. Ruto term limit, jitters over push for extra years. Ruto term limit, jitters over push for extra years. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has submitted a memorandum to the bipartisan talks team to increase the presidential term limit to 7 years. But lawyers and politicians are having none of that, asking the team to ignore the request, but others see hidden card and hand in the drive. That is a story making the splash here on the Standard newspaper. Still on the front page of the Standard newspaper, Eliud V, the gentleman is just doing some great work out there. The Kipchoge won by 31 seconds, the 5th fastest time of his illustrious career. That is when he won the Berlin Marathon, 5th of his 6 races. That is a record. That's a record. Okay, so Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei submitted the memorandum to the bipartisan talks. What do you make of this headline, Mheshimiwa Mudenyo? Ruto term limit, jitters over push for extra years.
3 things we can discover from this arrangement. One, as everybody is saying, there's a hidden card here. They are testing the waters to see what's the reaction of the people of Kenya. They have this feeling probably the Ruto was sent by God, so to speak, to liberate Kenya or to save Kenya from whatever it is nobody has understood. Secondly, this really, it's a diversional tactic. It's just a red herring. The country faces so many challenges at the moment that we should not even be spending any single moment of our time talking about term extensions. Here the focus should be on more mundane and basic issues affecting the people of Kenya. Thirdly, it's just a counterbalancing act. You remember at one time the President Ruto brought whatever he called some statement to Parliament calling for the creation of the office of the leader of opposition. So this is just a counter-meandering measure. And for all that we care, as a country, we chose to go a presidential system of governance through the 2010 Constitution. Whatever they are proposing is going to be a mongrel. We either have to make up our mind. Do we want a presidential system or do you want a parliamentary system? You cannot be in between. We're already grappling with the current political constitutional arrangement that seems to be a bit gray. We borrowed a few things in the presidential system, we borrowed a few things from the parliamentary system. So that confusion is what you see all these messes about. Because if it wasn't for such a confusion, Ruto will not have spent billions and billions buying opposition members of parliament to support his agenda. He should have just left parliament, run as an independent institution, providing checks and balances, doing its mandate as provided for under Article 95. So to us where we sit, the current regime has got so much trouble in their hands. They're just looking for anything, any diversional tactics. Something to keep people talking about and forgetting the very big issues affecting the people of Kenya. The high cost of fuel, the resultant increase in the cost of goods and services. We are now being hit by El Nino. There is no preparation for El Nino. This is going to cause a massive devastation. Nobody's even bothered about it. We have universities grappling on how to admit students without money. Students are being asked to pay some 7% of the fees, yet the government clearly said all those very vulnerable students will not be asked to pay anything. The universities have ignored that. School fees has gone up. Their extra levies are being asked, yet we're not talking about these things, generally speaking. I mean, it's just a country in shambles. Yet now you are starting bring onto the table things that are of no material benefit to the people of Kenya at the moment. Let's focus on the issues that are going to alleviate the suffering of the people of Kenya instead of talking about, sure, why would Ruto want 7 years to do what? If he has not been able to do it, to set the ball rolling. In the wisdom of those people who crafted the Constitution, both the one when we removed one-party rule in 1992 and the ones who crafted the 2010 Constitution, they must have been moral and a very well-researched reason why we set a term limit of 5 years. If you sit in the executive, the propensity to mess up, the allure to misuse power, because you have the pass, you have the money, you have all the state machinery with you, is so compelling that we cannot allow somebody to have unfettered or unchallenged reign over the people of Kenya.
All right. Very well. Kevin.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Yes.
You know, Honorable Senator Cherargei is a very good friend of mine. And you know, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 allows freedom of expression by any Kenyan. And I respect the expression by my senior and my friend, Honorable Senator Cherargei, because it is his own opinion. And that's why he took his opinion to the National Dialogue Committee. Yeah, and we also saw the Fafi MP, who also had a more or less similar opinion when he was saying that presidential term limits should be abolished. And now
that happened almost a month
after the elections.
After elections, right?
Yes, now we are seeing my very good friend Senator Cherargei saying that the term limit of a president should be extended to 7 years, and he's giving very good reasons, which every reasonable Kenyan can see that the reasons are good. And Victor, you know, I have a lot of faith in the National Dialogue the Committee, because my own party leader, Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, is a co-chair, and I know he's a man who is able to ensure that all views are brought together and considered. And I'm sure since Senator Cherargei took his views there, the views will be considered and appropriate decisions will be made. However, Victor, I would like to say that I hope that what is happening now at the National Dialogue Committee will not be the same case as it happened on the BBI. Because, Victor, we know that for almost 2 years, every person was talking about BBI. Even the president himself, President Uhuru Kenyatta, more or less forgot about his agenda to govern the country, and he focused on the BBI. I hope this issue of the dialogue, because I believe they were given 60 days. I hope after the 60 days are over, there will not be more extension, because we need to focus on the main issues affecting Kenyans. You know, we need to focus on the high cost of living, Victor. But you know, as politicians, sometimes politicians give people information to consume. You know, for us to forget and also not remember high cost of living, we have to be given these stories on extending presidential term limits, you know, but we need to focus on the main things affecting Kenyans. And I believe that the committee, the National Dialogue Committee, will not be distracted from the main reason why they are meeting, Victor. The issues of high cost of living, those are issues which must be looked into. IBC is yet to be fully reconstituted. There is no chairman. There are not enough commissioners. IBC have a mandate, a constitutional mandate, to ensure that constituency boundaries are done by sometime, I think March 2024. And they can't do that before they are fully constituted. I believe those are and I saw the CEO of IBC, Marjan Hussein, when he was before the committee, and he said that before the commission is fully constituted, they are not able to do the boundary reviews. And you know, these boundary reviews are very important because I think they are done after, is it every 10 or 12 years?
12 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
So these are the key issues which needs to be looked into. However, this issue of having 2 more years to the presidential term limits is an issue which I respect. But according to me, Victor, if you look at other mature democracies like the US, the term limit of a president is 4 years.
Yes.
And a president will rule 4 years and you'll see something tangible. But I agree with Senator Sharagai because in Kenya, there's a lot of politics. When like President Ruto, 1 year has lapsed, but there was politics all through. Maybe you can say that he did not have enough time and to work on the government's agenda. But I think the moment you become president, you have all the machineries, people will talk, but you must do your job as a president. So in my opinion, Victor, I think this is an idea which will bring more complications to our constitution. Yeah. Because if we say yes, let's extend the term limit to 7 years, it means then, and of course, when these guys go to parliament, Sharangai must convince 2/3 of the parliament to support it before it can go for referendum.
Yes.
Yeah. All that will involve a lot of.
What would that mean if the presidential term limit is extended?
Yes.
To 7 years. What would that mean to members of parliament? Will also that affect your seats? Because
I'm not so sure the text how he has put it. It's possible you can segregate the presidential election from a representative election. You can as well, just like they do in America occasionally and in other jurisdictions, it doesn't have to be tied together. But the essence is that we really see no need for an extended term. All of us are subjected for a renewal of our term after every specific period of time. 5 years is adequate enough for you to put into place what you wanted to do whatever you wanted to do.
Yes.
And we see really no reason. And we say, this is politics. It's not one of the factors affecting the lives of the Kenyans. It's not one of the key deliverables that any person requires to deliver. It's purely politics here. As I say, we are just diverting. We're diverting. Yes, I say the Azimio side has got demands. Yeah. So let's also put our demand here so that the debate is split between Azimio demands, which seems to be countenancing with the people, who seems to be getting a lot of favor with the people of Kenya. So let us also introduce another debate so that if 60% of the time is committed to the Azimia agenda, then they also have some Kenya Kwanza agenda that's floating on the table here. Okay. So that people, you know, they're playing an irritant. They want to irritate people. They want to irritate Kenyans. They're just being irritant. You are hungry, and somebody is talking to you about some very outlandish issues. You are hungry, you don't have food. Somebody is talking to you about paying for you a helicopter ride to go to Malindi. You see, now you can see how, disconnected they are with the people of Kenya. Because they seem to have taken power literally, and now power is getting into their head, forgetting that the power they were bestowed, however contested it is, it's for the service of the people of Kenya. But let me tell you, Victor, I think it is high time with the people of Kenya, who are the suffering people, to literally call these people in power to order. Tell them it is time, don't confuse us with issues do not matter. And that's why there are issues in the 2010 Constitution. It had very clear structures of checks and balances. One thing that they should do, this bipartisan talk, should be to focus how to strengthen the various institutions that constitute the state. Right. Parliament, judiciary, this Constitutional Commission that are supposed to check on the excesses of the government, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Office of the Ombudsman, Parliament, and then we must also make a civil service that is capable to work without political interference. Right. The president is elected in a political process. So Famos is a politician. So he would want to mess up with the civil service or reorganize civil service to serve his political interests. It has nothing to do about service delivery. So we must find a mechanism where we can strengthen the civil service, that regardless who comes in, there is a very clear framework on how to deliver things. As a country, we have a very clear path to some stated objective. In many places, for example, Israel normally has got a very unstable government.
Yes.
Yet their country runs. UK occasionally, you know, the very many changes I've had with the Prime Minister, nothing has changed. They have remained stable and things just go on. So we need to strengthen our civil service. Even in US, when Donald Trump refused to hand over, the system handed over itself.
Yeah.
And life continues.
Exactly.
So that's where it should be the focus. Do we have, is the civil service populated with true professionals, people who are independent-minded, people who are given the resources to deliver, people who have got the courage to tell whoever gives them instruction that this wrong instruction will not do it because it is wrong.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. When we come back, this is what I want us to discuss more, because this is what we're waking up to. Kenyans who really want to understand what does it really portend to them politically and even legally speaking. Are we going back to the issue of 1992? All right, that's what we want to take a look when we come back after this. Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, who is representing the great people of Funyula, and Kevin Katisia, Speaker of the County Assembly of Kitui. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, very quickly on the front page of the Star newspaper, chorus of outrage, Grit's term limit talk. Chorus of outrage, Grit's term limit talk. LSK boss, that is theory, dismissed Cherargei's proposal and instead suggested a single 7-year term. That is according to LSK president. If adopted, that means that President William Ruto will serve for 14 years if re-elected. That's according to that, if it's amended, that if adopted, then it means that the president will serve for 14 years if re-elected. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper, more or less the same as what's on the front page of the Standard. And finally, fees windfall for private universities. That is here. Private universities have reported a high demand for admissions. Students shun public ones following the adoption of the new funding model that many perceive as expensive, especially because of loan component. But now the development is that a huge relief for the private institutions that have experienced low intakes since 2016. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Please go ahead and grab your favorite copy and take a read. Okay, so gentlemen, the issue of the presidential term limit, does it mean that we'll have to go for a referendum or the parliamentary way to amend this? Or does it have to go through the bipartisan talks for it to be amended? Kevin.
Victor, to start with, anything touching on the constitution has to go to the referendum. That must be very clear, Victor. Even if you touch even one article, it is the people of Kenya who came up with this constitution. So if you want to touch the issue of term limits, and Victor, as we talk of term limits for president, some of us who are in counties, Mheshimiwa, also governors are saying the same thing. Because if you affect the term limit of a president, you should also affect the term limit of a governor. Because even those, when the constitution was being drafted, that was the idea which was used. 5 years and 2 terms. So if you touch the presidential term limits, you're also touching on the term limit of the governors. And Victor, I agree with my senior, the LSK president, who is my very good friend, that if you say that you want to change the term limit to 7 years, whether it is 1 7-year term or 2 7-year terms, then it means in 2027, when President Ruto will be seeking re-election, then you will say that he's seeking re-election afresh as per the new constitution. And he will be entitled to the 2 7-year terms. That is 14 years. Because if you look at what happened in 1992, when the constitution was amended, President Moi said that now he is starting afresh for his 2 terms. That's why he sought election in 1982 and 1997. So all these things, Victor, have an implication politically in our country. And my suggestion is that this idea has been put to us by Senator Cherargei, and I'm sure many Kenyans will digest this idea and discuss it. But my humble plea as a common mwananchi is that let us not be distracted by the idea of presidential term limits and forget the main issue affecting Kenyans. The main issue affecting Kenyans is the high cost of living. Yesterday I saw, I think in an event in Western, and I saw my senior Speaker of the National Assembly and also the Chief Cabinet Secretary trying to blame the former President Uhuru Kenyatta on the high cost of living. One thing, Victor, when you assume office the way it is. And it will not be good when current leaders are blaming the previous leaders
for the high liabilities.
Exactly. It is the current leaders who are supposed to take charge and tell us what they want to do. Because if CS Moses Kuria said that fuel will be increasing by 10 shillings every month, and nobody from the government has come up to disagree with him, then it means next month, Mheshimiwa, I'm expecting fuel to go to 221. So I think the current leaders led by our president, whom I believe is capable, should try to help Kenyans. We can't be talking about presidential term limits when we are not even talking about what we are doing now as we're in office. Because Kenyans are suffering, and it is us leaders whom Kenyans are looking up to. For the unga to go down, for the fuel to go down. But the issue of term limits for presidents, Victor, if you touch on the term limit for a president, remember to touch on the term limit of a governor, of an MP, of a senator, of an MCA, of a women rep, everybody. And if you touch on
because all of them will have the same demand.
Exactly. And
Kenya is an interesting country. We are not like the states where the Mheshimiwa says that can be segregated.
It cannot in Kenya, because if you say that, for example, you extend the one for president to 7 years, then the others are 5. Chances are, and we are not a mature, we have to be realistic. Our country is not a mature democracy. Chances are, Victor, the party which belongs to the president, chances are that it may get the public may vote more to candidates who are in that particular political party. And no reasonable politician, including my brother here, will agree with that. Because if, for example, President Ruto is in office in 2027, maybe his term has been extended for 2 years, and all of us now are going for election, chances are UDA will have an advantage over the other political parties. And that is the nature of politics in Kenya. So if we touch on the president's term limits, we must touch on the term limits of the other politicians. Because that is how it has been in Kenya, and we can't say that in one night we have grown to be a mature democracy. We can't say that. We have to be realistic. And my plea to my senior Senator Cherargei is that the idea is good, but perhaps he can hold it for at least a 1 year, so that we can sort the issue of high cost of living, so that we can sort the issue of the IBC reconstitution. Because if it has to happen now, the question is, why now?
Why now?
Why now? When we know Cherargei belongs to UDA, and we know the president is a UDA candidate, then we will be forced to politicize the idea. The idea can be good, but we have to politicize it because we don't know the motive. And that's why I said I believe the committee which is doing the bipartisan talks, and it is the co-chair is my party leader. I believe that committee will look into these issues and be able to say this issue can wait. Because there are so many other good issues, even as county assemblies. We have taken our issues to the committee. We are pushing for financial autonomy, which the president, when he was in issue, supported. We are also pushing for the World Development Fund. And Victor, that's also an idea which I think if the committee can take into consideration, that's an idea we should be in the front page.
When
not the issue.
I have on the Star here, I have got a number of countries here in Africa. which have reviewed the presidential term limit, and we can all attest to what has happened to them. One is Burundi. Another one is Cameroon, Republic of Congo, Egypt, Equatorial Guinea, we have got Ghana, Uganda, Nigeria, Mauritius, and Liberia. When you look at the list, let's come back home to Uganda here. It happens. But the president has to go through a parliamentary way. My question is, Mheshimiwa, why would it not take the parliamentary way for such a proposal to be floated? Why the bipartisan talks? I mean, this is not part of the, yes, it's a memorandum submitted, but is it part of the agenda? Can the bipartisan talks committee handle it on behalf of Kenyans?
Now, let me, from my understanding, bipartisan talk essentially was pushed by both sides. Basically by Azimio side, for the purposes of addressing the pertinent issues affecting Kenyans at the moment.
Yeah.
And the two issues are actually the three issues that were on card. Number one was the cost of living. That still remains priority number one, agenda number one. Number two was the reconstitution of IBC to ensure there is a level playing field, to ensure that we have always had problems with the elections in this country. And basically the referee is always central to any game. So it's to try and sort out the issue of IBC, that any election results that are announced truly speak to the wishes of the people and there is really no issues. And thirdly was the issue of interference in the running of the political parties. And that goes to the heart of the independence of parliament. Of course, when the bipartisan talk were initiated, it now became a public forum. You can submit any memorandum, any issue that you want. Whether that kind of a memorandum is admissible in view of the mandate of the bipartisan committee, that's a debate the bipartisan committee itself must address itself to. If it was not part of the agenda, then they have no business really bringing it to the table. Because the argument was, let us look at what ails this country. Let's have a shared understanding. Yeah. Let's draft, just like it was the BBI approach. Let's draft those issues that needs legislative changes, those that needs constitutional amendments, those that needs administrative attention. So the ones that needs the legislative changes must come to the National Assembly and Senate as applicable. Those that needs constitutional amendments, depending what parts of the constitution are amending, you must go to the referendum. Yeah. Change of presidential term limit, straight away to the referendum.
But are Kenyans ready for that? With the current financial situation?
They might bulldoze through parliament.
Yes.
They must bulldoze through Senate. But again, you must contend with the courts, the judiciary. You might bulldoze through the judiciary, which probably is also 50-50. You can never know because it's a bench of judges. They can decide to do whatever they want. Yeah. They must contend with that. But most importantly, they must contend with the referendum. This Kenya Kwanza regime might have numbers in parliament, but they do not have numbers outside there. That I can tell you.
Might not.
They do not have. It's not even might not.
Okay.
They do not have numbers outside there now. Even after the rhetoric, after whipping up emotions, they could not have an outright victory in 2022. Generally, with the kind of hardships, with nothing to show about 1 year down the line, they do not have numbers outside there. You see, it will not even be a referendum about the term limit. It will be a referendum about the performance of the regime. In any case, once we have a lot of order to feed the people in the referendum. So to me, I really want to tell you for sure, it's headed nowhere. In fact, Kenyans need to start ignoring this. I think the Supreme Court seems to take a very dim view about changing the basic structure of the Constitution. The entire judiciary system takes to seem to feel that in tampering with the basic structure of our Constitution is not in the best interest of the people of Kenya. And also Kenyans would ask you a question. How will the change of the presidential term limit assist me feed my children? How will the change of the presidential term limit
Yes.
ensure that I've got somewhere to sleep? How will it ensure that I've got medical cover? Will it mean that if we increase the term limit of a governor, there'll be more medicines and medical supplies in the hospital?
Yeah.
Will I have water flowing at my compound? Will there be roads coming to my place all the time? What is it? You know, there must be a correlation between solving my basic needs and talking about things that are so abstract are of no need. In fact, if you ask many Kenyans, they would rather even have no president, they would rather have no politicians, because they are feeling these guys will come, we tell them very sweet words, when it comes to time of delivery, zero. This fatigue is setting in.
But is Kenya ready for that moment of changing the presidential term limit?
Where I sit, no. Where I sit, even this issue of introducing a leader of official opposition, no. Kenyans want them to address. They feel we politic too much. There's too much politics in this country. Every day you open up, every day you open the newspaper, you listen to media, you do everything. It's all about politics, 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 politics.
Okay.
Guys go to church, instead of praying to God to give us life, long life, 90% is politics. 90% is politics. Where Kenya Kwanza are 90% is Raila Amolo Odinga. He's mentioned more than the mention of the Almighty God, the creator of heaven and earth.
Right.
Even us where we go, 90% is all about the other side.
Okay.
So we must tone down the politics. And therefore it means we must just discard political discourse. Let's now go. In Daily Nation, page 19, sugar costs have risen 61.4% in the last 7 years. 7 months, I mean. 61.4%. Page 19 of the Daily Nation today. Sugar prices have risen by 61.4% the last 7 months. These are the kind of debate we should be having. Then they keep on telling us the cost of living has come down. Whose cost of living has come down? If these are the statistics.
Yeah.
We are here.
Okay. Katisia, what do you make of this statement? Because now it seems that Kenyans are going to be in another political debate for the couple of days or weeks, so to speak, unless something comes to distract it.
Yes. Victor, you know,
is Kenya ready for that debate as you speak?
As we speak, in my opinion, myself being a Kenyan, we are not ready for that debate. Our priority is the high cost of living. Our priority should be the reconstitution of the IBC, because we should know that as we continue wasting time, if I may call it so, 2027 is fast approaching. 1 year has lapsed. We have 4 more years to go. And you know, politicians like my senior here, Dr. Wilberforce, they start, in Kenya, you have to start campaigning immediately after you have been sworn in. If you campaign heavily in an area, which will later come to be not your area, maybe it has shifted after the boundaries are reviewed. That area is no longer in Fonyula, Mheshimiwa. I'm sure you'll be disadvantaged.
Doctor will have to tell us if that's the real situation.
Yes, so I think I want to challenge my senior here that this boundary review is very important, even to yourself, Mheshimiwa, because we must be alive to the fact that in Kenya, you must campaign as early as possible. And if you touch on the, if you look at Article 255, sub-Article 1 and 2 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there are those issues which, when touched, you have to go for a referendum as per Article 257 of the Constitution. One of them is the presidential term limit. You can amend the Constitution by popular initiative, that is a referendum, or the parliamentary way, as per Article 256 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So if you touch on the term limit of a president, direct we go to referendum.
What would be the legal implication?
The legal implication, Victor, is that we have to adhere to Article 255, 256, and 257 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. If we fail to do so, then it will go the BBI way. Because as Mheshimiwa said, these things will be taken to the court, to the judiciary. And the judiciary has no option. It has to protect the rule of law. The office of the Prime Minister, office of the leader of opposition, those can be created using the parliamentary initiative. But touching on the presidential term limit, Victor, that one has to go to the people.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, Kenyans are not ready for a referendum. The only referendum Kenyans can be ready for is a referendum about reducing the high cost of living. Yeah? But the leaders who are in office now should be more concerned about the Kenyans. That's why I was saying, how I wish what is in the front page is about the measures to be taken by the cabinet to reduce the high cost of living. Do we need, Victor, do we need to construct roads? Do we need to do so many mega projects when Kenyans are sleeping hungry? And when we say that Kenyans are okay, ask yourself, which Kenyans? You could be the only one who is okay, who has food on the table, but there are several Kenyans suffering. How I wish, Victor, we are talking about preparing for the El Nino rains. Yeah? I'm sure Mheshimiwa you remember in 1997 what happens.
Yeah.
The rain which was for 10 months and there were so many distractions. How I wish that could be the topic, Victor, whereby we are talking about the real issues. How are we preparing for these rains? Yeah, because that is only the topic in the counties.
Okay,
yeah?
That brings me to, when you talked about Article 2, 55, 56 and 57,
yes.
Article 142 talks
yes.
about the presidential term limit.
Yes.
And probably for the sake of the
yes.
Kenyans watching, the president shall hold office for a term beginning on the date on which the president was sworn in. All right? And ending when the person next elected president in accordance with Article 136(2) A is also sworn in. So it says that a person shall not hold office as a president for more than 2 terms. That is according to Article 142, if I got it right.
Yes,
all right?
Yes.
So does it mean that this article will have to be amended in a way to suit Cherargei's memorandum to
yes,
the partisan committee?
It has to be amended. And if you want to amend the presidential term limits as per Article 257, you have to go to the people. Yeah, anything about sovereignty of our country, about territory of our country,
yes.
about Bill of Rights, as per Article 255(2), about the presidential term limits, you must go to the people. So, in other words, Senator Cherargei is saying, is telling the bipartisan talks committee that all these issues, just know that we have to go to the people. By the mere fact that he has introduced all those other things, issues.
Wait, just a minute. Everything that is being discussed at the bipartisan talks?
Yes. Many other things like instruction of the office of the Prime Minister, office of the opposition leader. Yeah, all those things does not need a popular initiative. They can be done in the parliamentary as per Article 256. But anything, Victor, I'll read for you Article 255(1). No, there are those issues which, when introduced, you have to go to the people. One of them is territory of our country.
Yes, the supremacy of the Constitution.
Supremacy of the Constitution.
Yes, the sovereignty of the people, the
Bill
national
of Rights,
values and principles.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, all these issues we are discussing, high cost of living, the constitution of the IBC, we don't need to go to the people for referendum.
Yes, and actually, F says the term of the office of the president.
Yes,
will also have to
exactly. So, Victor,
initiative.
there are those we call low-lying fruits. If we mean well for our country, where can we get these low-lying fruits which do not need referendum? We know a referendum is very political. It is time-consuming. Yeah, it has a high financial implication.
Yeah.
If we mean well for our country, why are we introducing issues which need us to go to the people and do a very heavy and expensive referendum? Where can we first of all achieve the low-lying fruits? Where can we achieve the reducing the high cost of living? Where can we achieve the reconstitution of the IBC?
Right.
Yeah, instead of introducing other issues which will now distract us from the goal. And I believe once the president comes, because I believe he's still in the US, once he comes, he needs to sit down with his people and look into these things. Because to be honest, Kenyans are really shocked that the people they elected into offices do not have them in mind. Victor, if you go to the rural areas, Kenyans, Victor, are suffering. I can tell you, in Kitui where I come from, we're asking ourselves, what is happening? Do we really have leaders who care about their people? That's what I was saying.
That's the same question with you, Mheshimiwa Wilberforce.
Yes. That's the question we are asking.
You've been a member for some time now.
That's the question we are asking.
Right.
Yes.
That indeed every year we allocate money to counties, we allocate money to the national government. Is there an impact the people of Kenya can feel? Is there an impact? Let's even talk about devolution. It has been 10 years of devolution. 10 good years. We are now, this is the 11th year. We have pumped billions and billions in county governments.
Taxpayers.
Taxpayers' money.
Right.
By now, we should now start be feeling the impact of that money. We seem to spend all the time. The governors are all interested in taking photos with whoever is the president. The governors are all interested in riding in choppers out of the country, Nairobi, all the time. What is it do we feel on the ground? Honestly speaking, agriculture has devolved function. And Kenya is an agricultural country. Kenya is a country who has got food deficit. What have we done with that money? Now, this is the kind of debate, Victor, must come to the table for the Kenyans. This is the kind of debate should come to the people instead of wasting time on an issues. This has, increasing a term limit is for the personal benefit of one person against 50 million Kenyans.
Yes.
What are we talking about? We should mainstream things that affect the Kenyans overall. And I hope the bipartisan can have the courage to tell whoever has brought this that this is not part of our mandate. If you want it, go and initiate your own referendum process independent of this process so that you can pick up from there and know how you can move it.
All right.
Let's see if they have got that capacity or the courage. We do not even have money now. The country is grappling with a budget deficit. Where are we going to get billions and billions to conduct a referendum?
Okay.
What for?
All right, Mheshimiwa, let's take a break. When they come back, I still want to talk about the issue. When Section 2A was repealed, we got into, the late president gave Kenyans an open arm to exercise their democracy. Does it mean that somebody wants to go back to the shelf and bring that old book which was put on the shelf for history purposes and bring it back to life? That's what I want us to talk about when we come back next. After this, stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. And welcome back. Okay, so I promise we need to take a look. Let's go back to the history. And when Section 2A was repealed, Mheshimiwa Wilberforce and Katisia, you all know what really happened when Mzee said, this is it for all Kenyans. Now we are enjoying this situation. But before we get into that, someone is asking me, why are we not taking a look at the international papers as we usually do? Very quickly, as a break. Let's take a look at what's happening on the front page of the BBC. We have that Kosovo and Serbia row over monastery gun battle. A Kosovan policeman and 3 ethnic Serb gunmen are dead after a siege of a monastery in Kosovo. That was updated almost 3 hours ago. When you come to, there you have it. That's the front page of the BBC, and it's still continuing there as far as they're concerned. Very quickly, and finally, on the front page of France 24, Macron says France to withdraw ambassador and troops from Niger after coup. This is another issue that we're talking about. Niger is also put here, West Africa. So President Emmanuel Macron announced on Sunday that France will end its military presence in Niger and pull its ambassador out of the country after its democratically elected president was deposed in a coup. So that is here. And it's when you come to Africa, basically that is what's so far. So Niger bans French aircraft from its airspace. It seems to be a lot is happening in the West Africa, and I don't think. What do you make of this? Is Niger going to have it easy as far as this is concerned? Now Macron is saying that ambassador out, military and all that. Katisia, very quickly.
One thing, Victor.
Because what affects our brothers, the other side also affects us in a way.
Niger is a French colony.
Yes.
And just like Kenya, we can't say that we are fully detached ourselves from our colonial masters. Even up to date, we have some ties with the UK. Yeah, and you know, Victor, what is happening in Africa, especially in the western part of Africa, where we have all these many coups, yeah, is a clear manifestation that the people are refusing to be governed by the systems available. Yeah, and these are the things which needs to be looked into.
Yeah.
And if Niger says that they want to fully detach themselves from the French, there are consequences, like what is happening in Haiti. And I'm sure my senior here, because I'm sure in Parliament they must have discussed about how we are taking 1,000 police officers to Haiti. Haiti was also a French colony, yeah, and they said we don't need you. You just disappear from us completely. And what did the colonial masters France do? Yeah, in Niger the same. And when the president of France says that we are going to we want to stop all our associations with you, chances are it will not go down well with Niger as a country. And these are things we need to. They'll be exposed completely. And you know, France may also talk to the other allies in the EU and to their other allies among the developed countries and say, you know what, let us leave this country alone. They think they can exist on their own, and they will suffer. So I think what we are lacking in Africa, Victor, is that we are lacking maturity in democracy. Yeah, and if we got that truth, then Africa will be a continent whereby there are so many ungovernable countries. But we don't want to go that route.
Why West African countries, Mheshimiwa Mudei? I mean, it's interesting.
It's interesting indeed. In fact, it has caught all of us by surprise. And remember, it started with the Arab Springs. There is something sweeping through Africa. And Kenya and East Africa is not going to be spared.
There's a ripple effect.
Yes. People are getting fed up with bad governance.
Yes.
People are getting fed up with suffering. Because they feel, they look at the West, they look at organized democracies, they can see progress. Yet Africa, 70 years after independence, we are still stuck in days before even the colonialists came. So there's this feeling that yes, our colonizers, who happen to swing to give us instructions what to do, are not giving us instructions that help the people of people of Africa, for example. People of Niger, France has been mining their natural resources for all those years. The benefits to the people of Niger is minimal. Is it Central African Republic or Gabon? France has been mining and the Western world has been mining for all the extracting minerals and natural resources. Nothing. So to them, any leader who seems to pander to the Western world seems to be an enemy of the people. And that's why you find that being disposed like nothing. And this trend is going to continue. Rest assured, this trend is going to continue. We are having...
To whose advantage? To
the people's advantage. Yes, there might be a chaotic transition, typically. But eventually, they will come to a point that things are now okay. We are having a very restive young generation that do not want to wait for tomorrow. A young generation that is losing the time to have a family, to start a family, because they cannot afford. That young generation has got nothing to lose. So if you call them out for anything, they will for sure stand up and come and do it and cheer. You saw what happened in Gabon. They cheered the coup. See what happened in Niger. They cheered the coup. See what happened in Mali. They cheered the coup. You can now see this should send a very strong message to leaders that we must be responsive to the people that we have been assigned to govern and provide services to. And that's why when you come and start thinking of things that do not even make sense to them, they start asking you, what is your intention? When Moi stood up in Kasarani and said Kenya is bigger than him and the people, and said wakitaka tutoe section 2A tuwapatie. We abolished section 2A and we have made progress. Progress has been visible. At least now we have some sense of freedom. we can talk, we will not be here.
Yeah.
I, as an opposition a member of parliament, will not have come to KBC. Never.
You have that freedom right now.
No, I can come to
because of
KBC.
Section 2A.
I can talk.
Yes.
So we should not kill that.
Okay. Based on that, Mheshimiwa, let me just quote what Dr. Roselyn Akombe said as far as this is concerned. And I'm happy that you've completely and slightly and tactically diverted into this. Dr. Roselyn Akombe said that in too many countries where the political elite amend the length of the presidency or introduce term limits, the clock starts afresh.
Yes.
Moi did the same in 1992. Let's get ready.
For sure, I can assure you, the law does not apply retrospective. So it means if we amend this particular, or this what Senator Cherega is talking about, it means in 2027, Ruto will start afresh.
He'll clock 5 years.
He will have done his 5 years.
Okay.
He will do another 14 years. That will be 19. And remember, he was a deputy president for 10 years. Co-presidents for 10 years. So we are talking about 29 uninterrupted years of reigning over the affairs of the country of Kenya. Is that fair?
Victor, that is more than the 24 years of Moi.
Yes, is that fair?
And you know, and you know, Victor, I agree with my senior here that if you touch a single day in the presidential term limit, call it 5 years and 1 day, or 5 years and half a day, then definitely the president will go for 2 fresh terms. That is the reality, Victor.
With an election in between?
Yes.
Okay.
If we amend the constitution and we change the term limit by even a day of the president, then we will start afresh. That is the reality. And we should ask ourselves, are we ready for that? Because even when Moi, in 1992, when the 2A was repealed, he started afresh for his 2 terms. 1992 and 1997, afresh for the 2 terms. So we must be ready for that reality, Victor. And because Victor said that I come from the counties, if we touch the presidential term limits, that is Article 142, let's now go to Article 180 on the term limits of governors. It will also be touched because the assumption is that they go hand in hand. A governor and a president, their term limits go hand in hand. We have to go there and also touch the term limits of governors. And we know what is happening in the counties. And these are reality which needs to be well thought. And that's why I want to insist again that let us focus on the main issues affecting Kenyans. Let us focus. The reason why this National Dialogue Committee was formed, as what Mheshimiwa said, there are 3 main issues. Yeah? The issues of the IBC reconstitution, the issues of the high cost of living, the issues of the looking into what happened in 2022, because Azimio is insisting that that election must be audited. Those were the main issues which do not need a referendum. If you want to introduce a referendum, maybe the principals have spoken, we don't know. Maybe the Azimio principal and the president have spoken on the issue of referendum, we don't know. As we are small fish, we don't know. But my plea as a small fish is that let us look into the main issues affecting Kenyans. Because Kenyans down there in the counties and in the rural areas are suffering. And we should not risk going the way, the Gabon way or the Niger way, where there are coups all over. You know, Victor, during the Mandamano, there is one drunk man who said something very important. I don't know whether many Kenyans took it serious. He said that Kenyans are governed and ruled because they have accepted to be governed. We are so many of us, 50 million. If you compare that with the police officers available, there are very little police officers. But Kenyans have allowed themselves to be governed. Yeah, for us to continue being governed, no, Kenyans are giving delegated authority to the government. But they can say enough is enough. Victor, if you sleep angry 3 or 4 consecutive days, will you say that you are happy with the government? You will say you're not happy.
But why is this quite interesting? Because you also remember, a month after the current regime was sworn in, Fafi Member of Parliament also came up with the same idea. And we all know the outrage that came with it. And now, months later, we are also talking about the same. So what is so juicy about the presidential term limit? I'm just wondering, probably...
That's the question also everybody is wondering. That's the question also everybody is wondering.
In a span of months.
Yeah, and you remember when Uhuru Kenyatta was handing over, he said, thank God, the load has been reduced on me. I can now go and rest and do my own things. But for me, honestly speaking, it's just self-perpetuation. There is really nothing substantial. There are not any studies anywhere in this world that draw a positive correlation between the term limit and economic development. There isn't. If that was the case, Uganda will be very many miles ahead of us. Rwanda will be very many miles ahead of us. Gabon will be very many miles ahead of us. Cameroon will be very many miles ahead of us. There's nothing. Honestly speaking, any regime that knows exactly what it wants to do would plan itself in advance. So when they take office, the first day they hit the road. Look at Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki had planned in his mind how to govern this country. Despite being on a wheelchair, things took off smoothly without any problem. And if there's any time in the history of this country when there was improvement in the GDP growth rate, when there was really economic growth, was during Kibaki's regime, because he had planned it very well in his head. During the first term of Uhuru Ruto, they picked up where Kibaki had left and ran through it to a certain period. Then they also lost focus, got entrenched into politics, got entrenched into self-perpetuation. They forgot to govern. And that's what we are seeing now. Honestly speaking, the current regime made very many promises to the people of Kenya. We might want to be very sober and objective, but if we went for a thorough scorecard, we would definitely not give very good marks in terms matched with the promises and delivery. Now, that means that has got a very important fact, that they never thought through it clearly. During when they were making this promise, they never thought through it clearly to know exactly what is doable in the current circumstances and what's not doable in the current circumstances. Even if we said we are adding them another 3 years, even 8-year term, we'll still not get it right, because you get it right at the planning stage. You don't plan while you are working. You plan and keep on revising the plan. So if you want another 2 years to plan, so what time are you going to work? So basically, let us focus on the time available. Where I would stand up very early in the morning and campaign by tooth and nail against a extension presidential term limit.
Okay,
Victor, if
I will stand up every day and campaign against anything that is meant to tamper with the Constitution for personal benefit, not for, if it is for community benefit, we will support it. But surely extending the term of parliament, of president, creating the office of opposition leader, creating the office of prime cabinet secretary, how does it increase the numbers of ugali sufrias in my house? How does it? How does it benefit me? How does it take my kid to school?
Yes.
How?
Okay.
Those are the things we need to discuss.
When, for example, you come to the assembly, county assembly, Speaker, we look at it that way.
Yes.
And you just float that idea to the members of Kitui County Assembly and tell them, you know what, we want to increase the term limit for the governor. I would imagine the reaction.
Yes.
I don't know how they pick it.
Because, Victor, that's why in our discussion I was trying to bring you to the county level.
Yes.
Because whatever happens at the national level, a replica of it will happen at the county level, in whatever circumstance. And Victor, looking into this issue of Senator Cherargei politically, Senator Cherargei, in very many words, is telling Azimio that you wasted our 1 year plus, we need 2 years plus for our president to perform. That is politically what the senator is telling Azimio. And this is derailing the talks. At the county level, Victor, if today we tell the people that as MCAs we have resolved that our governor is a performing governor, which he is. Actually, we have a very good governor. But Victor, before you were employed here at KBC, and maybe you were given a contract, you knew the terms of that contract, yeah, you knew when you were supposed to exit. And you knew that after you exit, you need to plan yourselves accordingly.
Yeah.
So the governor, the president, when they were seeking election, they knew what the constitution says. 5 years. Like for governors, if you look at Article 180, sub-Article 7, it says that a governor is entitled for election as a governor for 2 terms. It doesn't talk of 2 consecutive terms, 2 uninterrupted terms. It just says 2 terms. And if, for example, you become a governor, maybe you are a deputy, then maybe your boss resigned, or what happened in Nyeri, your boss died, yeah, and as a deputy governor, you assume office. If you serve for more than 2.5 years,
yes,
then that is termed as per Article 182, 3B, that is a full term. So if as a governor you have served for whether they were interrupted or not, because like in our case, our governor served in 2013 up to 2017, then there was a break, then he came back in 2022, 2027, then he's serving his second term. The constitution says 2 terms.
2 terms.
Yeah, it doesn't say 2 uninterrupted terms.
I would want to ask this question and bring it to the county level.
Yes.
If a governor says that they want to extend their term limit, just a proposal of what do you think their deputies would say in as far as that's concerned? Because even then
the fight will break out immediately.
Yes.
The fight will break out immediately.
Yes. A governor says that I want to extend, or a proposal to the governor's term limit to be extended.
No. Already that proposal, Victor, is there.
Is there
at the COG level? That proposal is there.
I don't know. What do you think is
some things can't just wash. Some things cannot even be debated upon. Things cannot just work out. To me, honestly speaking, let's look. There is massive political implications. There are legal implications. There are law. Then there are financial, budgetary implications. To hold a referendum is expensive because this will have to go through a referendum. To keep somebody in the office for 7 years continuously is expensive. With the entire cabinet and everything is expensive. At least 5 years is good enough, it's long enough. If you are dissatisfied, you can change the leadership in between. You can imagine you have 7 years of non-performance, of non-service delivery. What impact will it have on the economy and on the country? Imagine you have a toddler born today. The toddler is underfed for 7 years. Will that kid ever mature to become a human being? Never. So that's why a break in between is most desirable. A break in between is very desirable. You would find even the UK, they have no term limit, so to speak, for their prime minister. Right. But the way their politics is structured, hardly any prime minister in the recent past has lasted more than 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
None. Because of the dynamics. I think the longest serving prime minister was Margaret Thatcher in the modern history. Thereafter, Tony Blair probably served a little period, slightly longer. Yeah. Thereafter, there has been very short terms.
1 year, 1.5 years.
Yes, because if you don't deliver, you are in executive. If you don't deliver on your mandate, holding executive position is far much more demanding in terms of delivery than holding probably legislative positions or representative position. So we must give ourselves an opportunity.
Yes.
You find even most typical contracts in most employment for a CEO is 3 years or 4 years. If you don't deliver, just go. If you have delivered, let's renew our mandate. 7 years, living with a bad president for 7 years is unimaginable torture. We can't just work with it. Let's just stick to what we have now.
Okay.
There was a lot of, even since independence, our elections have been after a period of 5 years. 5 years. If you have done well, you will be given 5 years.
Right.
If you have not done well,
yes. As we wind up, I'm told that we need to wind up because we have Senate Mashinani. I'm told we have to go to Lodo. But then now, very quickly, what would the political implication if this is an idea that is now still being mooted? It's just a memorandum, but what will be the political implication? We know how politics in Kenya really plays, and the voting blocks, which sides? What will be the political implication? Very quickly, we have 2 minutes to
before I talk about political implication.
Yes.
First of all, reviewing the terms of a governor, you don't need a referendum. It can go the parliamentary way. Because if you look at Article 255(1), that is not provided among the items which needs the referendum. And now, if you want to renew or review the term of a governor, of course, Victor, there will be political implications because if you look at and that's what governors have been fighting for. If you look at Article 180 on the qualifications of a governor,
yes,
they're exactly the same as the ones for an MCA. That's why the issue of degree for governors was removed. Because the qualification for a governor and even for a speaker are the same qualifications for an MCA. And that's why the issue of a degree for an MCA was removed. Politically speaking, Victor, when a leader performs poorly, Kenyans will tell you to patane 2027. Because it is not easy to remove a leader from office. But if now you are staying for people can wait for 5 years. But if you tell them 7 years, 10 years, and you want to press them to the corner, they will not tell you to put in 2029.
I would imagine, I want to get into your brain and see what they try to have that picture of what you're trying to picture.
Yes, because you can persevere for a little period, but you can't persevere forever. So definitely it will be attacked politically.
Thank you.
And I call upon my fellow leaders to look into the main issues affecting Kenyans before we look into the issues affecting us as leaders.
Thank you.
You see, there are those angling in Kenya Kwanza to replace Ruto when he retires.
That's not the political side.
Yes, political 2032.
Okay.
If Ruto is given another 14 years, many of them will be octogenarians who will be unable to stand and walk. A person like the current deputy president, Mani Rigiji,
he's so impatient. He's a strong man.
He's so impatient.
Yes.
He would not wait for those years. He will have. That's why I'm saying this is a cropper. It's going in. People who are angling like Mudavadi, 60-something now, another 15 years, they'll be 90s, 80s. I mean, who would cheer this kind of an arrangement that literally knocks you out? Makina Waweta and the rest. I mean, nobody, just, this is just political fodder for the day. It's just a good discussion.
Thank you.
Anyway, I don't see much into it. Kenyans, I think, let us focus on the most important thing. Let us ignore this debate completely. In any case, I think this debate has been introduced specifically to kill the spirit of bipartisan talks. It's just basically a killer. And I can assure you after 6 months, whatever time it comes, they'll be bickered enough. They will say no. As we conclude, congratulations to Eliud Kipchoge.
Oh yes, we did that.
This is wonderful. It makes us to Kenya. We feel Kenyans and all those who participated in the past. The good lady was broken all the records. It makes us feel proud as Kenyans. Let us. This is spirit that should carry us forward. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We need to go. Asante sana. Wilberforce Oundo, representing the great people of Funyula constituency, joining me in studio, and Kevin Katisia, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Kitui. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming over to the show. All right, so that wraps it up on Good Morning Kenya as far as iron politics is concerned. We want to cross over to Lodwar. Kamche Menza is standing by. We have Senate Mashinani. That is going to be happening for the next 1 week. Kamche, this is a big step in as far as devolution is concerned, and senators are now camping there for the next 1 week. What do you expect from Lodwar, more specifically Turkana County? Kamche.